Hello and welcome. This is Amanda, the Nerdy Krafter. We are here tonight to work on some new sets from Trinity Stamps. We'll be working with our Crater Layers Stencil and Die, and then another awesome set that they came out with, which is Astronomical Gnomes. So this set is so cute, has so many wonderful elements in it. So let's get crafting. As in my last videos, I am in love with these Lisa Horton inks, these interference inks, so we'll be using them a lot throughout today's cards. So let's buckle up. The three colors we'll be starting with is the Regal Gray Shimmer, the Teal Twist, and the Charcoal Gold. And we'll be using that on our stencil today. So with our stencil, I like to use the world's best craft tape to hold it in place so it does not go anywhere. So I'm going to start with taping up my paper so I hold it in place. We don't want that to shift. And then I'm going to place this stencil right down here at the bottom. Line it up, just kind of center it. So I'm just going to lay it right there. And again, I'm just going to add some of this world's best craft tape. Keep that in line. Now, I put my craft tape on just a Scotch roll. Makes it really easy to pull off and use. And we're going to start with this base layer with this gray. I'm going to just pounce some of it off on my mat. I'm going to grab my dauber, pick that up, and then lightly blend right on top of my paper here. Now I like to use circular motions when I'm blending. Kind of gives it a little bit of texture. This is a nice light color. But this is the ground, so this is like we're walking on the moon here, so we want a lot of nice texture in here. So just nice circular motions. I always like to go in with less to begin with, and I can always add more later. This is a layering stencil, so it's a 3-layer stencil. It has both the moon and also a meteor that you can stencil on your projects. Today we're just going to be using the moon. Coming in, a couple different going circles, side to side, blending that in nice and even. I'm going to add just a little bit more. I always like to go in from my mat. I find I have more control over the colors when I'm blending them. These are super juicy. They're brand new ink pads. So if I were to pick it up directly from the ink pad, it makes quite a mess. I did try that earlier. And rather than having a mess all over my project, we're just going to go in like this. Now you can see I've got a little bit darker here and here. That will be covered up by a lot of the other layers of the stencil, so I'm not too worried about that. Another ink that I like to use is the Catherine Pooler inks. Those are self-leveling inks, so those ones actually help out with leveling out some of those areas. So now with this, to line it up, I'm going to take this right at the top, so you can see right where my white is here. And I'm going to just shift this down until it covers up those little peaks at the top and tape that down. And then we're going to switch out with this Teal Twist Shimmer. And again, just add a little bit of that to my mat. You can see that one is super juicy. Make sure I don't get the turquoise on my fingers. And I'm going to pick some of that up. And then slowly, I'm going to be very light at first. I'm not going to press too hard. Let that color come in. And just circle, circle, circle. Now I'm getting close up here to this crater that we're going to use in a minute, so I'm going to clean my stencil in between so I make sure not to transfer the next color in. You can always tape off those other areas that you're not utilizing to make sure you don't actually stencil them also. This one went on a lot faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this up, I'm going to move it off to the side and just clean off that one area so that way I don't transfer any ink when I'm coming on the second layer. So now again with this one, I'm going right above So you can see I've got the white here, and then I'm going to slowly drag this down so that it's right on top of where it should be. And I'm going to tape that down. And the last color we're going to be using is this charcoal gold, and I'm going to actually do a little combination. So this is the charcoal gold shimmer. I'm going to add a little bit of that. And this has a little, you can see just a little bit of flakes of gold in there, but I also love this Galaxy Dream shimmer. So I'm going to kind of mix the two of them together. And this one looks red. So now with the interference inks, the unique thing about it is this left side here is what it's going to look like on white paper. This right side here is what it's going to look like on black paper. So although it looks red on my white paper here, when it goes onto my paper itself, it will not have that same color. So I'm going to blend those two colors together. Going to come in and just slowly build those colors up. And this is one that we may have to go in directly to. Yeah, this one looks like it's going to be one that we're going to have to go direct. So very lightly tap, pick up some of that color. I know this bottom corner here is super juicy, so there we go. There we go, there we go. That's the color I'm looking for. So light, tap just a little bit so I don't go too hard. But this last layer is more that black look, so going a little bit deeper on this one is okay. So my goal of combining my colors did not work, but that's okay. We just pivot and we try something different. Now this is the first time I'm making these cards, so I like to come on and show you exactly what it's like the first time I'm making them. I've looked at the stencils, I've looked at the stamps and dies, and I've kind of got a rough idea of what I want to do. But I really, when I watch other YouTube channels and they've done these projects 5, 6, 7 times, and they look perfect when they come out and they don't run into any issues, that's not realistic to me. That's not what we do when we get into our craft room. We have mistakes. I call them opportunities to embellish. We have, you know, things that don't always go the way we planned on them going. And I think that's more realistic. And that's what I want to show on my channel. That's what I want you to see. I want you to see exactly what it's like. I just opened the package up, other than, you know, cutting out some of the paper and pre-cutting some stuff to make it go a little bit faster. I want it to be more realistic for you. So here we go. Here is that gorgeous galaxy background, and look at the shimmer on there. That's the one thing I love about these interference inks. You can really see the shine that goes on there. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video for just a second because I want to die cut this out to go on our next piece. So I'll be back in just a minute. So through the magic of TV or recordings, we are back. So I did die cut this out. Now this set is a little bit unique in that it is a stencil and die combo. So you get both the stencil that we just worked on and also these dies. So you have some stars here that you see up at the above. You have the crater, which is part of the stencil, but you also get a die cut to cut out that center piece. And then you have the crater, and then you get the two dies. So you can cut out the crater itself is what I did, but then it has also a layering die if you want to cut that, just the top off and not the bottom. So I cut the whole thing out. So really nice set. This is, you know, something fun and exciting as we go into this new Galaxy release. I'm going to come in here because I have a little bit of a white edge, and I'm just going to temper that down a little bit. Just blend it out. Let's grab some of this gray, since that's the base that our image has. So I'm just going to add a little bit more texture to my piece here. I do like to distress most of my pieces, so I'm just going to come around this edge. It'll give it a little bit more of a feathered look, which is just fine for me. It just adds a little more dimension and texture to it, helps it separate off the paper a little bit. I do a lot of distressing on my pieces. There we go. That just helps give it another layer of definition. Okay, so now that we have that done, I'm going to move these inks out of the way, push them out of the way here, and then again, through the magic of television, I went through with the die that came with this set, so the die right here, and I die cut a whole bunch of images off of this piece of paper. It made it into a beautiful galaxy background, and then I'm going to be able to add this galaxy right here. So now, options, do I pop this up? Because what I'm thinking is I want to add this pattern paper behind, this here, and then we're going to place this in an envelope or in this plastic sleeve so we can make it into a shaker card. So I'm thinking I'm going to glue this one straight down. So I'm going to come in with our crafty glue. And this is the first time I've used this bottle, so this is the first time this bottle's been opened, if you can hear it crinkling just a little bit. And I'm just going to add a little bit of our glue to the back. And then find where I want to line this up. I kind of want to come up just a little bit, because I think I'm going to trim that bottom off, because that kind of fits right there in that crater. So we're going to go right there, and then I'll trim this bottom piece off. And then for the backing here, I'm just going to come in and place a little bit of glue around the edges. And then just going to dot a couple in between. This will just help it stick. It doesn't have to be every single spot, but I did go kind of close to the top, so. And then we're going to place this right over the back here. And I'm going to bring in our burnishing, our ergonomic scoring tool, and I'm just going to burnish that in. That will allow the glue to kind of adhere. I've got a little bit extra up here at the top, so I'm just going to wipe that off and have a little paper towel always off on the side here. And because those are just small little dots that I'm using, I'm going to allow that to burnish in. You can see the glue came through just a little bit, but that will pop right off. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so before I put this in the bag, I do want to trim this down, so let me grab my trimmer real quick. And I do utilize a guillotine trimmer, so I'm just going to trim that off. So now that that has been trimmed, I'm going to place that in this bag. And this is kind of the cheating way of doing a shaker card. I love it because I don't have to make sure that everything is adhered properly, that it's working properly. This kind of does all the work for me. And then what I do is I bring in some of my double-sided tape. I run that along this edge first, because this is the edge that I want to fold back any extra. So I'm going to fold back, make sure that I've got nice, clean, and fold that back. And then again, I bring in my ergonomic bone folder and just kind of make sure that edge is really good. And then I'm going to burnish the top there. So this bag can be self-sealing. I'm not going to be using the self-sealing feature today, so I'm not worried about that, but that leaves me with a nice clean edge there. And now I'm going to fill in some of my shaker bits. And we have the cutest shaker bits that have come out with this release. So we have this Embellishment Mix Boken stars. And then, where is my other one? Oh, I have such a cute one. Here it is. So here is our other one. So this is our stars and moons and little embellishments. So I'm going to add a little bit of both of these into here. And the nice part is, because I've already got, add that one, and then, oh, be careful when I open this. This one, these stars are just gorgeous. So I'm just going to tap a little bit of those in there. Perfect. Okay, fabulous. So I got a little extra on the back side here, no problem. And then I'm going to bring in that double-sided tape, which I just put. And then I'm going to place this right at the top side of my card. So I know this one here needs to come off a little bit. So what I like to do with this is I like to kind of miter the corner a little bit. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to just miter this corner. I'm going to cut it in a little, pull that extra off. That's going to help out so when I'm folding over, I'm not folding over as much. And this double-sided tape does not always come off very easily for me, so I like to pull out my little pokey tool. So this pokey tool here, oops, I'm going to close this up before I end up with sequins all over my desk, which I will probably do. So this pokey tool here, one side is a pokey tool, great for poking holes in things and helping to remove backing off of the double-sided tape. And the other side is a wand to help pick up embellishments. So you can use those to add embellishments onto your projects. So another thing that I like to do is one of our scoring tools. This one looks like a pen. I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to run it right along that edge. So what this will do is it kind of just helps this plastic know where I want it to fold over. And then I roll the plastic over. I know I'm getting close with my shaker elements, but that helps it come right over on top and see, now that is glued shut. So I do have all of this extra here that I can go ahead and I can trim that off. I don't need all the extra. I was just utilizing the little bag to make that shaker element. I have also done this with the Ziploc bags or zip tied bags, so you can use it with any of those zipper type bags or this great little clear plastic. Now look at that shake. Isn't that so adorable? So now I have that piece completed. I'm going to place that on my card front. So that is just going to glue down right on my card front. And I'm going to actually use a combination because this is the plastic. I want to make sure that, one, it sticks, and two, I want to make sure that none of these openings come open and my shaker bits come loose. So I'm going to do a combination of both this double-sided Suquine tape and also the liquid glue. So I'm going to burnish those down, make sure that they are sticking very well. And then I'll bring in my pokey tool and we're going to remove that double-sided tape. So now this one you can see I went over a little, so I'm just going to roll that back. Wonderful. Now this will give me just a little bit of wiggle room, and it will also just add another layer of protection for that glue to stick down. Okay, make sure my card is opening the right direction. I did glue a card down the wrong way the other day. So see, I did get that off just a hair. Now if this was just double-sided tape without anything extra, that would make it very, very difficult to bring that back up and line it back up again. But because I have the glue and the double-sided tape, that give me just that extra second to allow me to pull that up. And look at that shake. Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, so I'm going to move the rest of this out of the way. Let me do just 2 seconds of cleanup because I can make the biggest mess in between. I don't know if anybody else is like me as a messy crafter, but I seem to have the biggest workspace, and then as my projects go on and on and on, I end up with the very smallest work area available to use. So I'm just going to grab a wet towel and spray down my mat here. Oh, there it goes. The minute I walk away, it starts to work again. And this, I like to use just a laminated sheet protector or a piece of paper as my palette. It cleans up very quick and fast. Gives me a nice big area to work with. So that is something that I do enjoy. So the next thing that we're going to work on, so I've got this, we're going to just set this off on the side for a minute. We'll come back in with this cute little sentiment, but one additional thing that I would like to add is this gnome astronaut. So we're going to come in and we're going to color our gnome astronaut. So with that, we want to use a few different colors. So let's go in first. So we're going to use this Regal Gray Shimmer again. And I just need a teeny tiny bit for this. And then I'm going to need the charcoal gold. That teal twist. I think a little bit of teal would be so pretty on him. So we're going to add that. And then now this gives me the opportunity to bring in that galaxy shimmer. Okay, so we're going to be watercoloring today. When I watercolor, I just like to use a little medicine bottle here to do my watercoloring. Right now I'm going to be utilizing these Connoisseur number 1 and number 4 brushes. There are some very small elements in here. So I'm going to first activate my brush, spinning it around, making sure I get rid of all the air bubbles. Once the air bubbles are gone, I'm going to pinch that off or use my paper towel to make sure I get all the water out from this metal. Going forward, I will only dip my brush in halfway. I won't go past the metal any other time. But the very first time I activate the brush, spin it around, get rid of all those air bubbles. If you've ever painted with Copic markers and you get a blob of color, that can happen if you get air pockets in your brushes and it will kind of skip while you're watercoloring. And then if too much water gets up here in the metal, that can blob out at you. So just be very careful with that. Let me zoom in just a little bit so you can watch along, see if that helps. All right, so I'm going to kind of go in with some of the smaller areas first. So I want to come in this area right here around the helmet. I'm going to darken that in with more of the dark black. So I'm going to come in and pick up that charcoal, just picking up a little bit with my brush, just coming in and tapping that in. And for this, I'm utilizing that number 1 brush, just a nice small brush. This is a kind of a drier technique of watercoloring. You don't pick up a lot of water with your brush, so it's just dip, pinch, and then pick up your color. It helps your projects dry faster. It gives you a little bit more control over the color. I come in and layer. So you saw me go through and do 1 layer. This is I'm coming back in and adding a 2nd layer. I can do light sources and adding different texture and dimension to a project. Now, this is a smaller brush, so it does not hold as much water as the larger brush. So you will find that I am dipping my brush in a little bit more frequently and pinching it off in between each time because it does not hold, 1, as much water, and 2, as much ink. So for this technique, I will go back and forth to that palette a number of times, which is just fine. Perfect. See a little piece over here. So this has a lot of great little elements in here that we want to make sure that we're accentuating. So now I'm finding that my color is not moving even after picking it up there. So what I want to do is dip my brush again halfway and then pick it up and pinch it off. So again, dip halfway, pick it up, pinch off. That way I don't have a lot of water. Use my palette to pick up that ink again and just simply brush that on. So you want to be careful. So if you're seeing blobs of water come out on your project after you pick up or pinch off, that means you still have too much water on your brush. So you want to kind of back up a little bit and maybe pinch it off a little bit more. It takes a little bit of getting used to find out the right amount of water. But once you get it, you are going to be golden. So I'm just coming into the areas where I feel would be a little darker, utilizing this black. And this black does have a little bit of that gold shimmer in it. So it does have a little accent of gold. So when we hold it up to the light, you'll see a little bit of that in there. Okay, my color is not moving again. Pinch off. And again, pick up a little more color. Perfect. Okay, so now my gnome, my astronaut, is going to be gray. So that's where we're going to bring in that regal gray shimmer. I'm going to switch over because they're larger pieces at this point to my number 4 brush. So dipping that in, I did activate it already, and I've got the gray up here, the Regal Gray, picking up a little bit of that. I'm going to brush that into his canister that he has on his back. So that's his air canister. Inside his little headset. So his helmet is going to be gray. So I'm coming in and adding that gray into his helmet. So now if the light source is coming from the top here, coming down, or actually let's do it where it's facing him. So the light source is going to be coming in from here. So the first place that we hit is going to be lighter, and the further away from it's going to be darker. So as you can see with my hand here, where the shadow comes in this direction. So the first thing right here where this little bridge is, we're going to have a little bit of darkness here. But right behind that, it's going to be lighter. So now I'm just pinching off my brush. I added water, I did not add any more ink, and I'm just dragging that color out. Bring some of the color in from back here and blend those two together. So my darkest areas are going to be right up against items. I'm going to use the artist drawn lines to add a little bit of darkness there. The underside of his hat is going to be a little darker. Like I said, right along this hairline, or this little bump in his helmet, is going to be a little bit darker. So I tend to like texture in my watercolor. So I don't do a lot of straight lines. I like to do kind of a patting or a flicking technique to blend my colors in. I like that it gives it texture. I like that it gives it dimension. And a straight line is always harder to blend. So when I come in and do just a straight line, blending that in with water or blending it in with another color does make it a little more difficult. In a lot of mediums, such as Copic colors or alcohol markers, you tend to use 2-3 different color combination and blends. With watercolor, especially with this one, as you can see, it's got some gray, and it's going to be even pulling in some purple to it. So I know the purple says that it comes out with the black, but you can see there's a little bit of shimmer of purple in there. So that does add another layer of dimension and texture to this piece. So I'm just coming in and tapping in some of those colors. I decided to move the light source a little bit. I kind of, for some reason, I always tend to bring my light source in from the right to the left. So even though his face is facing here, and I wanted so bad to do it this direction, from habit, it's just coming in from this right side. So we're just going to go with it. No matter how hard I try, I guess I can't break my old habits. But we will make sure his face is nice and light. So with that, we're just going to bring in his uniform here. I love it. I love that I try so hard to do new things, but nope. Old habits die hard, what can I say? And a little bit of this ink goes such a long ways. Again, those pieces that I just worked on are pretty much dry, so I can just come in and tap them in. A little bit deeper right underneath the helmet is going to be darker. Right under his arm here is going to be darker. Underneath his leg, using those artist drawn lines. So just finding those darker points to bring a little bit more dimension and texture into it. Now his gloves, I was thinking that utilizing this teal twist, I really would love that for his hat. So he's got his hat underneath his helmet here. So again, right here under his helmet is going to be the darkest. I'm going to go right along those artist drawn lines. And with watercolor, it's okay to leave white. So I'm just bringing in a wet brush now and just bringing that color out. Leaving a little bit of white there. And then again, grabbing a little bit of color. This is a tapping or patting technique here where I'm just tapping in the color. And I'm leaving that white right there so I can leave a little bit of shadowing, texture difference. I start with the light and move into darker. It's always easier to add color rather than taking it away. And then let's add some blue gloves. And since again the light's kind of up on the top, I'm going to go a little darker on the bottom. Leave a bit more of the white highlighting up at the top of that. He's got a couple patches on here, so let's give him some of those blue patches. I tend to lean a lot towards purples and teals in my color choices. I don't know, they just speak to me. So those are the colors I tend to reach for. So this gray that has a purple undertone to it was definitely a great pick for me. And then the teal that comes along with it. Alright, so now his beard, is going to be a white. But there's really nothing completely white in nature. It either has a teeny bit of blue or it has a teeny bit of gray. So I'm going to mix just a tad bit of that teal shimmer with the gray, and I'm just going to bring in the slightest bit right around those artist drawn lines. And the reason why is because we want to give it dimension. I want to go underneath his mustache. And same thing with his mustache, just add a little bit of color to it. That just gives a little bit of dimension, so it doesn't look so flat. A little bit of color goes a long, long way. And then for his nose, there is not like a peachy color in this line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in a couple different colors to make the peach. I'm going to bring in the milk chocolate rose and the ripe mango shimmer. And I'm going to start with the milk chocolate, but I'm going to water it down. Because again, if I go in light, I can always darken it up. So I'm going to start with that on his nose. Very light. Now there, you can see the water pooling there. So I need to give that just a second to dry. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that peach, or that mango, and tap that in. So if I have too much color, I can pinch it off. And there we go. So just a nice light peach color with a diluted down milk chocolate and the ripe mango. Now I did forget to pull out a pink, so let me find a cute little pink. Which pink is speaking to me today? Well, actually, I do have the pinks out for another project. So let's go in with this Tropical Paradise. And you just need a teeny bit of that, because we need to give him some rosy cheeks, because a gnome is not complete without rosy cheeks. So pinching that off, and actually this time I'm not going to pinch off. I'm going to start first by adding water, because I want this to be even lighter than normal. And with the color on there, I'm going to pinch that off. Now my fingers will be colored by the end of the day. I do keep a paper towel close by, so I try not to transfer it onto my project. But I'm just going to come in with that very, very light pink and add that to his rosy cheeks there. Give him a little bit of color, a little bit of rosy cheeks. And of course, I'm going to add just a hair more because the camera does not always pick up some of those subtler shades. But there you go. You can see the shimmer. Look at the sparkle on that. He is out of this world. Awesome. I'm going to then bring him in. He's going to be jumping up out on the moon. He's out on his little moonwalk here. Let's see, where is my other blending brush? Ah, here we go. So one of my other favorite inks, as I mentioned earlier, is this Catherine Pooler. I think the main reason I bought it was because of this ink here, which is over coffee. Coffee is one of my favorite food groups. Just placing a white piece down right on top of this does not always help it to pop. So I will come in with my brown, my over coffee, my macchiato, one of those, and I'll just add a little bit of distressing along the outside edges. I also like to do that with my Trinity blending brush. So actually I'm going to use this one for the astronaut for the same, utilizing the same thing. I'm just going to tap this in right along the edges. That does just help it separate just a little bit. See how that pops off the piece a little bit more, our shaker card. And I'm just coming in. Now with this one, what I might do with this one, I'm going to move my water aside so I don't spill it. I'm going to add him to my mat, and I'm going to just circle in a little bit of this darker color for him. We have a little bit more white to cover, and I want to dirty it up a little bit. He's been out in space, he's walking on the moon. I don't want a stark white. Now the paper that I'm using right now is a Canson XL watercoloring paper. It is more of an off-white than a white, and the rest of my background is more of a white. So this also helps hide that difference by just adding a little bit of distress to him. And there we go. So now he'll blend in just a little bit better and pop right off of there. I'm going to come in with some of the Pear Blossom Press World's Best Foam Tape. I had to open up a new roll just the other day because I ran out of my last roll. So this is the World's Best Foam Tape. And we're going to utilize some of this to pop up both the sentiment and also our astronaut. So I'm just going to trim off a little piece of the tape. So this is a smaller sentiment, so what I'm going to do is just trim this down. So you might ask, why is this the World's Best Foam Tape? So this is the World's Best Foam Tape because it is repositionable for up to 30 minutes. So if I place it down, I place it in the wrong spot, I can pick it back up without destroying my project. And it is also permanent after a day. The backing comes off just like butter. Makes it super easy to pull the backing up and off. And it is a double height. So double height is double the height of a normal foam. So it does give it that extra dimension. And I love the little shadow that it casts. So you can see how nice and thick that is, and that's going to cast a really nice shadow. So now I'm going to come in and pop up this cute little astronaut. Oops. That piece wants to stick to me, not to our astronaut here, or a gnomenaut. How do we, what's the correct verbiage for a gnome astronaut? A gnomeo? I'm probably over foaming this, but I just want to make sure that he's popped up and not going anywhere. And again, let's see how easy this is. This is just butter for this to come off. I don't need my pokey tool, and that piece comes right off too. You can see that came off, not hurting my image at all. And he's going to hop right there. So now look at that cute little shaker. We've got this shaker with all these cute little charms and embellishments in there, and our gnome just hopping around for wishing you an astronomical birthday. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, for playing with this beautiful set by Trinity Stamps. So we are utilizing the Crater Layers Stencil and Die set, along with the super cute Astronomical Gnomes set. So we're utilizing this little guy right here, and I did trim this piece off. You may see that in a future project. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will catch you later. This is the Nerdy Krafter. Take care.